Hey, Yoel. Thanks for stopping by. Well, we've got some terrible news coming out of the United States, which seems like it's sort of redundant. All the news coming out of here is terrible lately, but this is a new precedent, something that I've kind of been waiting to see when it would happen. I figured it would be sooner rather than later, and the sooner has finally come. The United States Supreme Court has been formally asked to overturn the law that allows same sex marriage within the United States. This has been requested by none other than Kim Davis. You might remember her from about a decade ago. She was the lady who got in trouble for not issuing a marriage license to a gay couple. She claimed this was under religious grounds, that her religion did not allow her to recognize a homosexual marriage, that under the historical definition of what marriage is, she's not allowed to do this. This is a religious precedent that she's setting. And when I heard this back then, just like I'm hearing it now, I believe the same thing. Our country was founded on this idea, the separation of church and state. There are all sorts of people who would tell you our founding fathers were Christian and this was meant to be a Christian nation, or by some people's account, it's a white Christian nation. But those awful hopes and dreams aside, this country is founded on a principle of the separation of church and state, that our government has laws and religions should not be affecting that sort of stuff, that the church should not have a hand in what laws we pass or what we allow people to do. You may not be aware of this, but Kim Davis, as the Rowan County Clerk, was the only person allowed in that county to issue marriage licenses to people. To me, and from a legal standpoint, that piece of paper is the only thing that matters. That's what provides you the protections from the government, the ability to file your taxes certain ways, basically all of the paperwork benefits that you get from being married. You need that paperwork to officially say you've been married, at least in a legal sense. I understand that with people's religious preferences, they have a certain ceremony you have to undergo. There's rituals and things like that that need to be completed before you can officially say you're married in the eyes of your God, and that's all well and good. But I'm talking about governmental protections, the legal status that says you're married. I am of the opinion that if you are a religious person, you are free to worship however you choose to, but it should not interfere with the duties of your job. If you are a government official, if you work with that sort of sector, you need to follow the code of the law. Your personal ethics, your religious practices, whatever is affecting you on an outside moralistic standpoint, when you arrive at work, you need to be able to turn that off. But Miss Davis was allowed to claim a religious immunity, say that's the reason why she wasn't able to fulfill her job duties to the full extent of the law. And now this has become everyone's problem, once again. Her attorney on this case, a man named Matthew Staver, has stated that the previous court's majority opinion, which allowed Oberville versus Hodges to pass, is considered legal fiction in his eyes. An insane thing for someone to say, let alone someone who practices law to believe, that what the Supreme Court has handed down is considered a work of fiction in your eyes. Now, it should stand to note that many lower courts have already rejected this appeal of hers numerous times. One of the most recent said that she can't use the First Amendment as a defense because this is a state action, not a federal action, which the First Amendment doesn't protect. Meanwhile, her lawyer is pulling the argument that this case needs to be heard because she's the first person in our republic's history who was jailed for her religious convictions regarding the historical definition of marriage. And I hear that argument, and I feel this case should immediately be dismissed. Your religious conviction does not matter in the United States of America. You are supposed to uphold the law, not your religion. As a county clerk, as someone who represents the government, you are supposed to uphold the government's laws. If you are unable to draw that distinction yourself while serving in this seat of power, you need to resign. This nation was not founded as a theocracy. This is not under any sort of Sharia law. This is not under Christian theocratic rule. And I would appreciate it if the people who represent our government remember that. I know there are some of you who are going to be handing out some Fell For It Again awards for the few and far between LGBT Republicans in your life. And that's fine. You can do that if you want. I'm not going to, because this stuff just makes me feel bad. I hate to look at people who've been fooled in this way. I know a lot of these guys were all hung up on this culture war stuff about trans people and things like that, and the type that wanted to cut the T from the LGB, and, well, you're all getting cut from the team, it seems like. With the current ideological lines drawn on the Supreme Court, there are many people who don't have much hope for this going forward, but I have to stay optimistic in the hopes that our Supreme Court will actually uphold the letter of the law and understand that we are not under theocratic rule, and we shouldn't be. That America was founded on this idea that you have a freedom to worship as you want, but that should not interfere with our governmental practices. Miss Davis's petition will be reviewed this fall, and if they accept it, arguments could be heard as soon as June of next year, but maybe it won't get that far. This is certainly something to keep an eye on, and I guess until we get some more concrete news about this, y'all try to have a good day.